may have uncovered the true origins of Britain's most famous monument. This is the story of the lost circle of Stonehenge.
Have you ever wondered why Stonehenge has puzzled historians for thousands of years? Why were these massive stones dragged from miles away and arranged in such a precise pattern? Some say it's an astronomical calendar. Others think it's a sacred site. But the truth has remained elusive. Imagine a mystery that's baffled humans for centuries finally being cracked. Keep watching as we uncover how AI is finally shedding light on Stonehenge's secrets.
The name Stonehenge is thought to come from the Old English or Saxon word Stanhengen, which means stone hanging, because it kind of resembles what gallows looked like in the Middle Ages. You had two uprights with a crossbeam.
People have long wondered whether Stonehenge was an ancient calendar, a place of worship, or something entirely different. Now, after years of excavation, scanning, and analysis, scientists say they've uncovered evidence that changes what we thought we knew. For most people, these findings might not seem extraordinary, but to Leach, they revealed exactly who built Stonehenge. And it's not who anyone expected. The clues buried beneath the soil and within the stones themselves tell a story far more surprising than the legends ever suggested. Join us as we uncover what scientists have finally discovered. The mystery of Stonehenge, finally solved by science. For generations, this monument has sparked endless debate among historians and researchers. But one of its biggest mysteries, the origin of the smaller bluestones, may finally have an answer. The focus now turns to one particular rock known as the Newall Boulder. Discovered around 100 years ago, this football-sized stone has divided experts for decades. Was it naturally carried from Wales by glaciers thousands of years ago? Or was it deliberately moved by humans across 125 miles? A research team led by Professor Richard Bevans from Aberystwyth University decided to settle the question. Using advanced geochemical and microscopic testing, they compared the Newall Boulder with stones from Craig Rossi Phelan, a rocky outcrop in North Pembrokeshire, Wales. The results were striking. The boulder was a perfect geological match, with no signs that it had been moved by glacial ice. This means it wasn't dropped by retreating glaciers, but was almost certainly transported by Neolithic people who were already quarrying stone in that area around 3000 BCE. Its chemical fingerprint, identical levels of thorium and zirconium, linked the Newall Boulder and other Stonehenge fragments directly to Craig Rossi Phelan. The study also revealed that another buried stone at the site, known as Stone 32D, wasn't spotted dolerite as once believed, but the same foliated rhyolite as the Newall Boulder. This rock type, coated with calcium carbonate after centuries underground in chalk soil, provides more proof that humans, not glaciers, brought it to Salisbury Plain. Transporting these stones, some weighing over 3 tons, from Wales to the site would have been an incredible feat. Most archaeologists agree that Neolithic builders carried out this challenging task. However, some geologists, like Dr. Brian John, still argue that glaciers moved the stones, pointing to markings he believes were made by ice dragging rocks across the land. But the new evidence disputes that idea, suggesting the markings could just as easily have come from natural weathering over time. Perhaps the most convincing argument against the glacier theory is the absence of similar stone fragments elsewhere. If glaciers had transported the bluestones, pieces of the same material would be scattered across the surrounding plain, but they're only found at Stonehenge. That fact alone, researchers say, speaks volumes. The recent findings don't just question Dr. Brian John's glacier theory. They completely overturn it. The research team stated directly that his claims lack evidence and that presenting them as fact is misleading. Their point is straightforward. Stonehenge itself is the proof. If the monument stands today, it's because Neolithic builders physically moved those stones, some weighing up to 40 tons, into their positions. Unless one believes those massive slabs happened to be lying perfectly where they needed to be, the only logical explanation is human effort. And if these builders managed to transport the enormous sarsens, moving bluestones of just 2 or 3 tons would have been much easier by comparison. The sarsen stones, standing more than 7 meters tall and weighing over 20 tons each, came from West Woods in Wiltshire, about 20 miles away. Even more astonishing is that the famous altar stone was brought all the way from Scotland, a journey of nearly 470 miles. That fact alone proves that long-distance stone transport was entirely possible thousands of years ago. While the exact techniques remain uncertain, history offers clues. Indigenous communities in later centuries have moved multi-ton stones across great distances using simple tools, ropes, wooden sledges, and trackways, all of which were available to the builders of Stonehenge. This is part of what makes the monument so captivating. Most Neolithic stone circles were built using local materials, but Stonehenge was constructed entirely from stones brought from distant places. Such an effort suggests it wasn't merely a ceremonial site, it might have been a unifying project for the people of ancient Britain, a political and spiritual symbol that connected communities with their ancestors and the cosmos. The new research leaves little room for doubt. The bluestones were transported by human hands, not carried by ancient ice. The real mystery now isn't whether people brought them here. It's why they went to such extraordinary lengths to do it. But what if Stonehenge's purpose was even more specific? Keep watching to learn more. Could the true purpose of Stonehenge have been to function as a solar calendar? For thousands of years, people have wondered what it was really built for. New findings suggest we may finally have part of the answer. And it's not just about rituals or burials. According to Professor Timothy Darvill from Bournemouth University, Stonehenge may have been one of the world's earliest and most accurate calendars. His study, published in the journal Antiquity, suggests that the massive sarsen stones, the largest ones in the monument, were arranged to create a simple yet precise perpetual calendar based on the solar year of 365.25 days. Darvill's analysis shows that the sarsens forming the trilithons, the sarsen circle, and the station stone rectangle were all positioned between 2620 and 2480 BCE. Remarkably, they have remained in the same places ever since. The sarsen circle, perhaps Stonehenge's most recognizable feature, was built using 30 upright stones, connected by 30 horizontal lintels. Darvill explains that these 30 stones formed a complete circuit, with each one representing a single day in a Neolithic month. In this system, a month contained 30 days divided into 3 10-day weeks. Interestingly, stones S11 and S21 slightly break the pattern in shape, marking the start of the second and third weeks. 12 of these 30-day cycles gave ancient timekeepers 360 days, but that still left 5 days unaccounted for in the solar year. Those extra days were represented by the 5 enormous stones of the trilithon horseshoe at the monument's center. Arranged from smallest to largest, these stones symbolize the final 5 epagomenal days, possibly reserved for religious festivals or special ceremonies. Even more impressive, the builders of Stonehenge might have included a system for leap years. The 4 station stones, set in a rectangular formation on the outer boundary, allowed for the addition of 1 extra day every 4th year to keep the calendar aligned with the solar cycle. This made it a highly advanced timekeeping system for a society without written records. Darvill points out that for non-literate cultures, embedding a calendar into a large stone monument made practical sense. It would have been crucial for farming communities, guiding them on when to plant, harvest, and celebrate their deities. It also had social and political importance. Whoever controlled the calendar controlled the rhythm of daily life. Beyond practicality, it reinforced spiritual order, ensuring that rituals and ceremonies were performed on the correct days to honor the gods. Seen this way, Stonehenge was far more than a gathering site. It functioned as a calendar carved in stone, a link between earth, sky, and people, marking the seasons with a precision that continues to amaze us today. But Stonehenge may hold another layer of mystery, one you can actually hear. Stonehenge's hidden acoustic secrets. Stonehenge may not have been only a monument to the sun and seasons. It might also have been built to manipulate sound in extraordinary ways. A new study by acoustics engineers from the University of Salford suggests that the prehistoric circle was designed to amplify voices and music, creating an intimate sound environment hidden from the outside world. To uncover these acoustic secrets, the team constructed a 1:12 scale replica, nicknamed Mini-Henge. Using laser scans from historic England, they recreated every curve, height, and gap of the original monument as it stood around 2500 BCE. Missing stones were digitally restored in their ancient positions, 157 in total, based on the latest archaeological data. The stones were then 3D printed and treated to reproduce the acoustic properties of the real rock, resulting in the most accurate reconstruction ever made. Testing took place inside the university's specialist acoustic chamber. Instead of Neolithic voices and drums, researchers used speakers and microphones. Because the model was smaller, all sounds were played at 12 times the normal pitch, pushing them into the ultrasonic range. The results were surprising. Inside the circle, voices carried with exceptional clarity. The stones amplified sound by over 4 decibels without producing echoes and blocked most outside noise from entering. Conversations or music performed at the center could be heard perfectly within the inner ring, but barely audible beyond it. "You'd think the sound would just vanish into the air," said lead researcher Trevor Cox, "but the stones bounce it back and forth. It's quite magical." This clever design suggests that rituals and ceremonies were meant for a select audience, those standing inside the circle, while others outside could only observe. The monument's massive structure may have impressed the public, but its sound was reserved for a chosen few. When the researchers experimented with different stone arrangements, reflecting changes known to have occurred throughout Stonehenge's history, they found that these adjustments barely affected the acoustics. To human ears, the sound would have felt almost identical. This indicates that while sound may have influenced Stonehenge's design, it was probably not the main reason for how the stones were placed. Most researchers still agree that the monument's primary purpose was astronomical, tracking the sun, moon, and seasonal cycles. Even so, its musical qualities continue to intrigue scholars. "Stonehenge hums when the wind blows hard," said musicologist Rupert Till, who has studied its sound properties. Some experts believe that certain smaller stones were selected not only for their look or location, but for their ability to produce sound. When struck, they emit a resonant tone similar to a metallic gong. In 2014, lead acoustics researcher Trevor Cox suggested that these stones might have been used as percussion instruments during ceremonies. This idea isn't far-fetched. In 2013, a team from the Royal College of Art managed to play Stonehenge's so-called ringing stones, like a massive xylophone, producing an eerie, melodic sound. Their findings, published in Time and Mind, the Journal of Archaeology, Consciousness, and Culture, concluded that these sound effects would have been even stronger in ancient times, before many of the stones were set into reinforced concrete, a modern addition that reduced their natural vibration. If this is true, Stonehenge was not just a place to observe the sky or mark the seasons, it was also a space where sound and stone merged together, creating a stage for both sight and music. But could Stonehenge's origins be tied to something even more mysterious? Let's find out. Merlin and the magical origins of Stonehenge. Long before scientists studied its stones with lasers and microscopes, Stonehenge existed in the world of legend. And in those old tales, one name stood above all others: Merlin, the mystical wizard of King Arthur's court, master of spells, dragons, and the forces of nature itself. According to medieval stories, Stonehenge wasn't built by human hands, but through magic. The story begins in the 5th century, after a brutal massacre of British nobles by invading Saxons. King Aurelius Ambrosius, uncle to the future King Arthur, wanted to honor the dead with a monument unlike anything ever seen. Ordinary stone would not suffice. He needed something eternal, something infused with power. Merlin offered the solution. In Ireland, he said, there stood a circle of giant stones placed by ancient giants, stones said to possess mystical healing powers. These stones were called the Giant's Ring, and legends traced their origin to Africa, brought to Ireland by supernatural beings. King Aurelius sent an army to seize them. The soldiers won the battle, but they could not move the enormous stones. That's when Merlin stepped in, using his magic to lift the megaliths into the air and carry them across the sea to Salisbury Plain, arranging them into the sacred circle we know today. This tale first appeared in Geoffrey of Monmouth's 12th century Historia Regum Britannia, a mix of folklore, national pride, and poetic imagination. For centuries, people took it as fact. Many genuinely believed that giants, wizards, or other supernatural forces had raised Stonehenge. After all, how else could people thousands of years ago have built it without modern tools or machinery? The Merlin story is just one thread in a larger web of myths. Some suggest Stonehenge is the burial place of two kings, Uther Pendragon, father of Arthur, and King Aurelius himself. Others claim it predates the biblical flood, with origins tied to a lost civilization or survivors from Atlantis. Even Julius Caesar's Romans thought it was the work of ancient Druids. To medieval minds, its perfect design and massive stones seemed far too extraordinary to be the work of ordinary humans. Myths didn't just explain how it was built, they tried to explain why it existed. And magic felt like the only answer. Today, we know Merlin's role is purely legendary. Still, Stonehenge continues to draw people for its spiritual significance. Modern Druids and pagan groups gather during the summer and winter solstices, honoring the same solar alignments marked by the ancient builders. It turns out they're closer to the truth than they realize, not magic, but astronomy. The stone's alignment with the rising sun at the solstice reveals a sophisticated understanding of the heavens. In the end, the real story isn't about sorcery or giants. It's about generations of humans working over centuries, creating a monument that combined ritual, mystery, and cosmic meaning. Yet beyond the myths and magic lies another cosmic clue. Let's uncover it: Stonehenge's secret lunar connection. For centuries, we've known that Stonehenge was built with incredible precision to align with the sun. On the summer solstice, the sunrise appears directly over the heel stone at the entrance, casting its first golden rays deep into the heart of the monument. In winter, the sunset aligns just as perfectly, slipping to the southwest beyond the stone circle. Now, scientists are investigating something even more mysterious: the idea that Stonehenge's builders also designed it to track the moon. The key lies in an astronomical event called a major lunar standstill. This rare phenomenon occurs once every 18.6 years, when the points where the moon rises and sets reach their most extreme positions on the horizon. It's a slow, cosmic rhythm that would have taken ancient observers decades to fully understand. Now, with another standstill approaching, researchers from Oxford, Leicester, and Bournemouth universities, working alongside English Heritage and the Royal Astronomical Society, are taking the opportunity to study it directly at Stonehenge. At the center of this theory are the 4 station stones that once formed a large rectangle around the monument. Only 2 remain today, but some archaeologists believe their positions mark the moon's extreme rise and set points. This year-long project will use the rare alignment to take measurements, observe light patterns, and test whether Stonehenge was built to honor not only the sun, but the moon as well. Observing the moon's extremes is far more challenging than tracking the sun, explained Dr. Amanda Chadburn from the University of Oxford. It requires precise timing, clear skies, and patience. We want to understand what it was really like for the builders to witness these dramatic moonrises and moonsets, and how light and shadows played across the stones, she said. Stonehenge's link to the moon may date back to its earliest days around 3000 BCE, when it served as Britain's largest Neolithic cremation cemetery. Many of the burials were placed in the monument's southeast corner, exactly where the moon reaches its most southerly rise during a standstill. Later, around 2500 BCE, the massive sarsen stones and station stones were added, possibly reinforcing a tradition that had begun thousands of years earlier. Over time, Stonehenge has faced both neglect and attack. But how did it survive? Stay tuned to find out. Over the centuries, the monument has faced a surprising enemy: humans. Long before it became a protected heritage site, Stonehenge was slowly dismantled piece by piece. Up until the 17th century, stones were removed and used for building projects. By the 19th century, visitors were chipping off small pieces of rock with chisels to take home as souvenirs. In the 1970s, the annual Free Festival brought large crowds to the site. The first few years caused little harm, but by 1978, authorities had to fence off the area. During the 1980s and 1990s, things escalated. Repeated acts of vandalism, including a 1984 incident where the stones were sprayed with purple paint, led to barriers being set up, exclusion zones covering miles, and hundreds of police deployed to protect the site. For a time, the government even closed Stonehenge, though public outcry forced it to reopen. Vandalism continued in unusual ways. In 2008, 2 men used a hammer and screwdriver to chip a piece off the heel stone no larger than a 10-pence coin, the first recorded incident in decades. In 2020, controversy arose when the British Transport Minister approved a long-debated plan to build a tunnel near Stonehenge. Critics called it state-sponsored vandalism, with historian Tom Holland describing it as an unbelievable destruction of the landscape. The courts eventually allowed the project to move forward. Even protests have targeted the monument. On June 19, 2024, climate activists from Just Stop Oil sprayed 3 of the standing stones with orange cornflower paint. English Heritage called the act extremely upsetting and launched an investigation, but the powder was later removed without causing visible damage. So, what do you make of the scientists' latest discoveries? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click on the next video on your screen to catch up on your favorite celebrity stories. See you there.